Yeah.
So, and if I'm not getting paid and sticks and accommodations, but not, then I'm going to have more say in what I want to do than the team does.
Sure.
And so I spent the last 2 months in Fort Wayne. We had the dumpster fire in Spain, which we've documented. Great experience, but still a dumpster fire. And came back here to play in Fort Wayne with the goal of my agent to get me a deal somewhere in the Fed, where Fort Wayne is pretty much central to everything. It's a couple hours away from Dan Vegas and Danville, Illinois, from Michigan, from the Port Huron, the Motor Cities, from the East Coast, a couple hours, and then obviously a little bit more of a trek down south. But it's central, and it's a great spot where I'm playing actual competitive hockey, more of a senior hockey than anything, not a lot of defense, a lot of offense. And in that time period over the last 2 months, I put up the best stats in the league, which is something we haven't been able to say on this podcast so far. And after all the games, and to be quite frank, a severe lack of defense, I put up the best save percentage in the league, with the exception of, I think, some guy who played like 2 games. But as far as like full-time guys, best stats, and no offers came in. I mean, there wasn't a lot of goalie movement to begin with, but I just said, listen, I'm going to go home for Christmas. We'll evaluate things at this point. But if there's no deal by the new year, I'm just going to stick home and we'll see if something else comes up. But I got other business endeavors that I want to focus on. I enjoyed playing in Fort Wayne. It was fun. I love the games, right? Even though it's not the most competitive compared to playing pro, I love the games. Whether there's 50 fans, 200 fans, that's what's really fun. We go travel 2 hours to Toledo. We play in their barn. We win. That's fun. Made 60 saves in that game too. We traveled down to Pittsburgh, maybe a little bit of a blowout game, but they had a lot of high scoring chances based off the shots that they had. That's fun. That's what I live for. But if I'm not playing pro, I can't fake it. I can't sit here and say, I'm working towards a goal. I want to be pro. I got to be realistic about it. And if a deal hasn't come at this point in time, then we got to start looking elsewhere. At least in the perspective of life, because I don't want to be that guy and we all know that one guy who's 30, 35, 40. Oh, I'm going to make pro. It's like, well, dude, you haven't played a pro game in 10 plus years. It's over, right? So trying to be realistic about what do you think? Because you've had it behind the scenes for everything.
Well, I mean, look, we've taken our turns at trying to guess what the next step is for Casper or for Casimir, and for a guy who we were very critical on as far as hey, take a job when you can get it, and he said, no, I'm not playing anything below the American League. Just this past week, he signed in the East Coast League with the Admirals. So he's in a situation where he finally realized, I got to get a job or I'm not going to have one at all. Mm-hmm. And I think in your situation, it's kind of similar. If you're not playing, if you sit on the sidelines and just say, I'm going to wait until the offer that I want comes around, you might be waiting a while. So if you're in the cage, you have a better chance of getting to those goals. And if you're not in the cage, then those get harder to achieve.
Well, the difference between me and him, though, was he was looking, I'm assuming, he was looking for, I want the right pay, the right opportunity, the right amount of games. And, of course, I'm not going to go sign with a pro team to be the fourth goalie or a third goalie. I'm going to play some degree of games. I'm going to be the starter, but be the backup, play a couple games. I want to be an actual pro, not a practice goalie. And, I mean, the money's dog shit no matter where you go.
Right.
All right? This has been the primary income the past 2 years compared to playing in the Fed, so that the money's really not that big of an issue.
Well, and I think that's a question that I think I'm stealing from a lot of people's brains right now, which is, are you playing pro hockey to create content, or were you playing pro hockey because you wanted to play pro hockey?
Well, that's my life's work. So when I mention I can't fake it or pretend like I'm going through the motions, I function a lot off achievement-based stuff, right? So I feel very useless very quickly if I'm not accomplishing things or I'm not doing stuff. And it can be small stuff, right? If I want to go to the gym early in the morning, I want to go do a cold plunge out in freezing cold creek, or I want to go play a professional hockey game this week and be successful. Small little things or big things. But I feel useless very quickly. And if I'm working towards a goal of playing pro and I'm sitting here spinning my tires in the mud and I'm performing well, I'm putting up the best stats in the league, I'm keeping the team in games, I'm winning the team games, when I'm not in net, we're not winning games, and no teams are calling, well, I think the writing's on the wall to some degree. I think it's a pretty fair assessment.
Well, if it's not your play, then what is it? And we've talked about this before. Is there a possibility that some teams just don't like the idea of having the curtain pulled back by their goaltender who may or may not be in the game, and they got to be second-guessing everything that they're now doing because there's live cameras in the locker room or edited cameras in the locker room and on the ice and whatnot? Does that maybe take their eye off off what they're there for?
But so you're forgetting one piece, one critical component that I've communicated to every team that I've played for. We're going to run into issues at some point just based on the fact that I'm filming things and putting on the internet when the other guys are not. We're going to have issues at some point. But what we can do is be professionals. I'm a professional. You're a professional. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it like men. There's nothing we can't talk about in 5 to 10 minutes. This is actually one of the conversations I had in Mississippi right when they traded me, call, hey, is this going to be an issue? Listen, I'll be straight with you. There's going to be something that happens at some point, but let's communicate. Let's talk about it. We'll never have an issue that lasts more than 5 minutes. And I'm pretty reasonable. So if you have an issue, just let me know. We'll solve it.
Well, we've talked about it before. A lot of teams are willing to overlook problem childs if their talent is there. And, whether or not one balances out the other, if they're somewhere around even, then they're going to default to not worth it.
Well, the problem is, and we talked about this with Matt Murray, when you've had a certain amount of time off, right? Like whether it's hip surgery or just like not playing a whole lot of games, it's a luxury to get back into the rhythm, but you need to get back into the rhythm. So in Fort Wayne, when I'm playing every single week and I'm playing games, you see like when I'm consistent and I'm feeling it and I'm not worried about, well, I might start this week and then not skate for 2 weeks or not play for 2 weeks. It's a lot harder to get into that than when I'm playing every single week. And the results show. Now, again, it is a luxury to do that because starting goalies get to do that. They play 2-3 times a week. But you need to get into a rhythm. And when people see what I was doing in Motor City, Watertown, or Mississippi, I honest to God, despite the stats, in Mississippi, I felt the best I've felt in my career. That is when I felt I was going to put up the best numbers, the best stats given a chance. Now, granted, they hung me out to dry in Whitville.
Sure.
Like, we had a top goalie going after me, and you have the exact same goals, worse stats than me. And then they said, whatever, just put Ridgen back in. We suck tonight, right? That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And I have to wear that. That's part of the job description. But I felt that I've always been at that level, that I can play professionally. And if you give me a couple of games, I can be your guy. Give me a little bit of time to work into it, but I'll be the guy, good locker room guy. If we have issues, communicate with it. But the problem is when you have the guy in charge who owns the most amount of teams, and he says, I don't like that one of my players potentially could have power over me, this is where we run into an issue. Because acknowledging that I have power with our show and with the vlog is a problem. Despite the fact that I've said, listen, I acknowledge that. I'm willing to submit to you and say, whatever the boss says goes, and we can be flexible and work as professionals. But that goes out the window if you're not willing to admit that. And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems is that teams that are owned by the emperor, as I like to call him, they're not going to take me no matter what. Doesn't matter who says what. I had a coach call me, listen, dude, I'm going to bring you in next week. Let me just talk to the boss. Yeah, dude, I'm taking too much heat. I can't bring you in. It's happened twice.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way the business.
And again, like you said, that's a problem. It's a problem for you. It's not a problem for them. Because, I mean, guys, and no offense, but outside of the camera work, guys like you are a dime a dozen. They can find another Travis Ridgen, a guy who's 6'5" and can stop the odd puck, right?
Yep.
So if they had their option, it's the ones, and they're very few and far between, but I think they're going to start becoming more popular, especially in some of the lower rungs of professional hockey, is realizing that it can be used as a promotional tool as long as you go in with that attitude of, hey, you get final say on what gets cut and what goes to air, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and I think that when we look back on my playing career, I will be one of the trendsetters that set that standard of a player coming in to do videos, because now a lot of guys are doing that, and a lot of teams see the value in that. The mainstream media is dead. You can't get your message out through the mainstream anymore. You need to go through a more personal channel like this, or I don't like the word, but the influencer creator route. It's the way to go to build. Because when somebody has a small audience, let's say, like I'm not talking about the Kim Kardashians who have like millions and millions of followers, the 10,000, 50,000 follower dude, that's very personable. It's relatable. And people are more inclined to listen and to want to act on that. And so when you see, oh, this dude's posting his videos, he's playing with Vegas, he's playing in Dan Vegas in the Fed, I want to go see a game. That's cool. It's relatable. But if the owner doesn't see that and doesn't acknowledge that, we can't win together. And it's hard to admit too, but one of my New Year's resolutions is when it comes to relationships and endeavors, if something is not providing value for you, you got to just cut it off and rip the Band-Aid off. There's no sense spinning the tires in the mud. It doesn't make any sense. And if no team's willing to sign me or, offer some type of a PTO, when I got the best stats in the APHL, which is the closest league to the Fed you're going to find, writing's on the wall.
Okay.
And we've been very successful with our show and some other business endeavors as well.
So all that being said, where do things stand as far as your playing situation right now?
So I'm not with Fort Wayne anymore, with the Distillers, Summit City Distillers. I told them, listen, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been fun, but I'm not going to come and spend all this money just to play. I was willing to spend some of this money to get an opportunity to play pro and to accomplish my goal of pushing the boulder up the hill. Now, I've been very fortunate where I've actually not very often got to the top. I'm constantly pushing the boulder up the hill, but I feel very useful doing that, and I really enjoy that. So that's kind of worked to my advantage. But I'm not going to do that if there's no opportunity. And so I'm not, like I said, I'm not with Summit City. I'm a free agent at the moment in time. I got some cash prize native tournaments coming up in Manitoba and up in the Res for, I think, end of February, beginning of March-ish, and then another one in April, another one in May. So that's going on. So if any teams are interested, I'm a free agent.
So you're a gun for hire.
I'm absolutely a gun for hire.
Okay.
We'll work for saves.
Okay. Well, look, I will say, and we can wrap this up. I think we've pretty much gotten the answer to that question. There was a quote I heard recently from a very, very popular actor who was accepting an award. And he says, I was asked the question recently, is it about the destination or the journey? And I said, it's the company.
The company that surrounds you on the journey.
Right. And all the way through. So it's not necessarily the way there. It's not necessarily where you're getting to. It's the people you surround yourself through all of it.
Well, I think if you asked any of the teams that I played with, the guys on the teams, they'd all say the same thing. Yeah, sometimes you miss the road trips, you miss the adversity. You're down 3 goals in the third period, then you came back to win. But it's the day in, day out. It's the guys in morning skate, going for breakfast after. That's the stuff that I miss the most. Even like the shower talks or being on the road trip back. It's 2 a.m. We're having a great conversation. That's the stuff that I look back on and I say, wow, those are some of my best memories from playing professional hockey.
Well, look, and you're still, like you said, you're not over the hill. You're still pushing. You're still pushing up the hill. So, gun for hire, you never know. An opportunity could pop up. Right place, right time. I mean, pick the cliche you want, but it's not necessarily over as far as your playing career. It's just going through a different
and I love
avenue.
Goaltending. I'm still going to continue to play because goaltending is fun. And the interesting thing, too, is these cash prize native tournaments. And by the way, if you run a reserve team or like any cash prize native tournaments, you want a goalie, give me a jingle because I love this stuff. And the money that we win, well, I mean, depending on the tournament cash prize.
And you check that box, too, by the way.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And because I am native.
Yeah.
But the money you win in those tournaments is probably going to be more than I made my entire pro career, which is kind of funny because it's not pro hockey, but these dudes want to win some cash, and so do I.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very achievement, very money driven as well. So you got a native tournament and you need a goalie for, as long as there's a cash prize. There's no cash prize.
How many are those?
What do you mean?
Per year? Like how many of those happen per year?
There's lots. They're everywhere. They're all the way through Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, the reserves, the cities. They're everywhere. You just got to find them.
They got them down in the U.S. too?
I'm not American, so I wouldn't know. But
doesn't matter though. I mean, you should still be able to play.
I mean, listen, if I'm eligible to play, I'll come play for any cash prize tournaments. I like winning. Winning's fun.
Yeah.
I love winning.
And making money's good.
I love making money too. It's better than losing money.
Right? All right, listen, before we get into our next portion of the show here, tell them about this amazing sponsor.
Yes. So this episode of the show is sponsored by Saley eSIM. So Saley is a company spun off of NordVPN, the private internet security company. We've talked about them over the years. So Saley actually is really awesome in a product that I use because when I went to Spain, I use their eSIMs. And so if you don't know, when you go to a new country, you're traveling, you need a SIM chip, right, for your phone. Otherwise, you get no service. But the problem with that, you have to find a dealer, you have to find a location. With Saley, you just go online, go to the website. They're super affordable. They have eSIMs in over 180 countries. You just buy one of the eSIMs, download the app, put in the code, boom, on the spot, you have service. So when I went to Spain, when I was at the Toronto Pearson Airport, right before I was about to fly over to Barcelona, activated the SIM chip, on airplane mode, arrive in Barcelona, boom, I got service. And so no more walking around trying to find public Wi-Fi. No more, hey, bro, you mind hotspotting me? You just got service. It's great. And they're super affordable plans, whether we're talking 5 gigs, 100 gigs, 30 gigs. They have everything you can possibly use. And right now...
By the way, back in the 90s, if you asked someone to hotspot for you, it meant something completely different.
Well, times have changed. But Saley is going to solve that problem. You go to a link in the video description, click on that. The first link, use the code BISKIT, BIZKIT. You're going to get 15% off your eSIM plan, supporting the show, and making your next travel endeavor a lot easier.
By the way, we're going to get into this a little bit later on in the show, but our voicemail is chock full. The red line is full. We're going back almost a month, actually, for some of the voicemails. So if you left one and we didn't get to it today, we're slowly catching up.
We get a new sponsor for the voicemail, but we'll get to them in a moment. But I did want to mention, too, just to wrap off the whole leaving Fort Wayne talk and the FPHL, I love my time there in Motor City, in Watertown, in Mississippi. I was formidable. I was serviceable. It was a good time.
Well, look, you not only are you going to have those memories, forever, and even though there'll be the memories will get shorter, you have the time capsule of documenting all this and throwing it up online, and it's there forever. That's a really cool way to be able to go back into a photo album and say, I did this, and go, yeah, that was my life for a number of years.
And we've talked about it privately. On my bucket list for probably 26, maybe 27 is, kids or a kid. And, fast forward in the future, to pull out a phone, iPad, or whatever they have at that point in time and say, son, daughter, whatever, this was me at 25 in Motor City. This was me at 26 in Mississippi. What do you think? That's just a crazy cool concept.
Yeah, see, I've got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they're starting to ask questions about things like that, and it's a lot of fun. Well, just things about, especially my 13-year-old, like, Dad, what was high school like? And it's like, oh, well, listen, just telling those stories about what my experience was like, and it's weird because you're setting a benchmark without even realizing it, right? It's like, this was my experience, and so they go, okay, I want to have that. It may go above, it may go below, you never know, but you try to be as honest as you can, and luckily, like I said, you've actually got video evidence to say this is what it was like.
I'm picturing on your side. Dad, what's this photo? That's me smoking a big fatty. What's this picture, Mom? No, put that away, put that away, put that away.
And those will come up. And also keep that in mind, is that all this stuff is documented now, so this stuff may age well, it may not. You never know.
It's like when I record something and I post something, it's with the intention of this will age well. Hopefully, right? It's not. I'm not posting.
Yeah, your mullet has not aged well on those shorts I've been seeing popping up on my algorithm.
Thank God it's gone. Well, I remember you.
I tried to talk you out of it when you cut it.
No, you were hyping me up back then. You're like, this looks good. You look good cruising down the wing. Goalie with a little bit of salad looks good.
Yeah, I don't know.
You were hyping it up.
In the helmet, maybe.
Leave a comment down below or call the voicemail. What do you think? Mullets, yay or nay? And then on me, yay or nay?
Can't wait to hear those.
I don't know what you're
blow up the comments.
I don't know. I'm getting chirped more for these fresh kicks or my mullet today from you.
Limo driving,
jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down.
Are those alligator skin?
No, they're not.
Hey, more hockey content. It's might be old, it might be new, it might be a full episode, it might be a half episode, but you can click these boxes because who doesn't like clicking boxes?